Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of our message recap. We do this every week because there's more than 11 minutes we can unfold in one topic.
Unless you watched in person.
Unless you watched.
Unless you got more.
Yeah, we're back here in person for in-person gatherings. So if you were here, Kevin talks
more than 11 minutes.
No.
Let's be kind.
Okay. All right.
That was totally true.
That is.
Anyway, we had a message this past Sunday, and we like to spend some time going a little further into that. But Kevin, you spoke, and you talked about the importance of us knowing and understanding God's love for us. But to go deeper than that, how God treats us all equally, and he wants us to do the same with others in our lives.
Mm-hmm. Shouldn't we mirror God's love?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. You know, Shaheen and I, probably more than even Johnny, or we talk about our messages a lot. We talk about these principles. And I think that this message right afterwards, you know, Shaheen and I talked about, that could have been a whole series. There's so much to talk about this topic, that there are so many questions and so much more. So hopefully we can do that quick here. But it really basically started out with, you know, what does God prioritize? And I thought that was a shock for most people right there. Mm-hmm. We don't know that God actually has priorities. We've all probably heard we've heard preaching about everything of God is just as important, or we've heard people say what God said here is just as important as what he said there, and that's just not true. Mm-hmm. God's number one priority is that we believe in Jesus Christ. Uh-huh. There's no argument about that. We're not going to talk about it any further. That's just a fact. Yep. And there is one reason why he wants us to believe in Jesus Christ. One reason. And that is so we can know his love. Mm-hmm. So that we can be in an intimate, personal, connected relationship with our Father God. So that was the launching point of this. And to know God's love is overwhelming. God loves us individually. And I kind of said it in a way, we look at it that God splits his love up between millions of people. And I don't know how God does this, but God puts all of his love on every individual. Mm-hmm. And he does that millions of times. You know,
when you talked about, too, you know, this idea that the worst criminal or Hitler has just as much of God's love as you or I or you know, a saint. Yeah, whoever that might be in your mind, we're not saints.
Love how you follow
another saint, you know, different person who might be a saint, not us. But I think that, you know, you mentioned in the message, it's a hard thing for people to grasp. And I know in having conversations with people and people in my small group, you know, as we've talked about that sort of thing, that is a
barrier.
Whoa, wait, what?
I believe it's kept some people from even wanting to be close or accept Christianity as a whole.
How could you love someone like that?
How can God love a Muslim terrorist as much as he loves an obedient Christian? Like, what? But the fact is, God loves every single person. Doesn't matter your religion, your race, your sex, your background, nothing. He loves every individual the same because he created us all the same. But I think people's confusion is we link love to
being nice or
kindness.
When we say God loves everybody the same, he loves everybody equal.
We think it's all rainbows and sunshine.
Yeah, we think then, then God treats everybody the same in a sense that, well, everybody should have what you say all the time. Then that means the same outcome.
Yeah.
God loving us the same, God loving us equal doesn't mean same outcome.
Equal love does not mean equal outcome.
Exactly. That was
simply put. Yep.
That was the point of the message. Mm-hmm. God respects everybody the same. By respect, saying, I'm not going to run your life for you, no matter who you are. I created you, and I value you. You know, gave my son for you. But I respect you enough to make your own decisions. I'm not going to run your life for you.
Yeah.
Therefore, and here's where our human love gets in the way. We don't love like God does.
Yeah.
Because we want to jump in there. We feel sorry for people. God doesn't feel sorry for people. He loves them. It's hard for us to differentiate the two. But God's love for somebody is absolutely complete. But he respects everybody enough. If you choose to live your life this way, I will not interfere. That's called respect. And we should respect people the same way.
Yeah.
So where do you balance out then? I know this is a question that I had come up as I listened to you talk. where do you balance out, or maybe it's not a balance, I don't know how to use the right word.
Order.
If you have compassion on someone in their circumstance, I mean, how do you work through that then? Where you're not, I think I understand the point you're trying to get to of you're not enabling people.
Yeah.
But where does compassion and that sort of element play in then?
Yeah, I think as we look at it from God's perspective, we have to look at it from God. God loves everybody. If we could love people the way God loves them, we would treat them the way God treats them. And what God does is he respects people enough to learn on their own or to discover for themselves his way is right. He doesn't change his way to make you happy. He doesn't change his principles to ease your pain. If your pain is caused by your actions, then he will allow you to go through that pain. Does that answer a little bit? But when people have, like God told us to take care of the poor and the widow and that kind of thing. But what we rarely hear is the qualifications God gives, where Paul made it very clear to pastors of Timothy and Titus and the pastors of churches. He made it very clear there is a qualification to a real needy person. And we don't do that. Our compassion or our feeling sorry for people supersedes what's right. We kind of go past what's righteous and what's right, and we hurt people by not taking care of them. I mean, Paul says, you don't help out a widow if she's young because she can get remarried, and so there's a lot of, and we generally don't do that. But I think that there was three things that we talked about. The third one of that, God loves everybody equal, which means his treatment of everybody is equal.
Treatment. Yeah.
And I think that's probably the most confusing. But we need to see that God is no respecter of persons. He respects everybody, but he is no differentiator of people. In other words, he will treat you the same if you're a woman or a man.
Yeah.
He will treat you the same if you're black or white. If you follow his rules, this is going to happen. If you don't follow his rules, this is going to happen. He treats everybody the same. The punishment will be the same for disobedience. The reward will be the same for obedience. He doesn't differentiate. By that, he doesn't feel sorry for some people and say, I'll give you extra here.
Extra pass or...
And I know that's where you felt like maybe I would turn the message more to what's going on in culture today. And what's going on in culture today is just a result of what's going on in individuals.
Yeah.
And that is the problem, is that we just imagine if we did love like God loves people and we had no prejudices. That would be awesome. If we treated everybody, we saw everybody as the same value, but we were just as right with every single person. We see in our culture, if you're rich and famous, you get off of a ticket. Well, God wouldn't do that. Yeah. God would say, you get a ticket, the same as you, and you. God, that's why I say God doesn't have this, I feel sorry for you. And we got to kind of think this, God doesn't feel sorry for people, but he has compassion on people. And that is his desire and love to have us follow what he says.
Yeah.
Because if we don't follow what he says, he doesn't say, well, I'll excuse that. God never, ever excuses anything.
Yeah.
He's righteous. And you can't separate love from righteous. You can't. This police officer, and I don't know why I keep forgetting his name, but that put his knee on George Floyd.
Yeah.
And I didn't double check the facts, but one story I read that this officer was disciplined a few times earlier. It was caught for doing some, inappropriate overuse of force before.
Yeah.
But the person, and the attorney,
their superior,
was nice to them. Well, God's not nice to anybody in that respect. We as humans, we say, well, that nice, you know what? I'll give you a break. Let him go. Really? Well, look what happened.
Yeah.
Look what happened. Is it nice letting people go? We don't think judges are just when they let a murderer go free. We just don't think so. So why should we flip it the other way when we feel sorry? Here's something I brought up before, and this happened in my family, but I'm going to use this as an example for. This is a hard concept for us to get. That's why you said we should do a whole series. Hard concept to get. But why does it seem like we think that the results or the consequences for action, bad action, should be lightened up or lessened if we know the person? Don't we?
Yeah.
I know how many people, I mean, this is a great example of certain people that used to be against abortion. They just were by their own moral character. They were against abortion. But then their daughter or sister had an abortion. Well, now it's okay.
Yep.
What? God's not like that.
Will you pray for my brother? He's going up to face a judge this week.
Yeah. Well, what would you like me to pray for?
Oh, the judge goes easy.
Did he break the law? Does he deserve going to prison? Well, somebody else might, but it's my brother. Be easy on him. See, God doesn't fall into that frailty. Mm-hmm. God doesn't do that. Why? Because he's so loving. He's just. Hard concept for us to understand. We would have to talk about example after example for us to understand this. But I hope we do.
Let me ask you a few.
Yeah.
I'll just give you
examples. Sure.
some examples to try and work through this, because I know my brain is still trying to process it as well. What does love look like if a spouse is unfaithful? In the equal value, equal respect, equal treatment as God does. Well, how does that play out then? How does that flesh out?
It's for the individual if you've been cheated on. Mm-hmm. So what does loving my partner like God loves them look like?
Yep.
And I believe that is, I can still love you and care about you, but not make up for your hurtful behavior or not excuse your hurtful behavior. I can protect myself or stand up for what I believe is a proper standard of marriage and still love you. You see, we so oftentimes think, if I'm going to take an action to somebody, if I'm going to tell somebody the truth, if I'm going to give somebody a ticket, I got to get mad at them. No, God is very loving. On Judgment Day, and I mentioned this, on Judgment Day, God is going to have the same love for somebody that he says, depart from me to an eternal damnation of hell, as he does for the one that welcome into my kingdom. He has the same love. Mm-hmm. We keep thinking love is excusing people. Love isn't excusing people. I mean, does that answer your question at all? Do you help with that?
I think in the respect and value are easier for me to comprehend. It's the treatment one. So how would somebody treat that spouse then?
How would I treat an unfaithful
love?
spouse?
Yeah,
like God
I
would?
think treatment is this. Everyone who breaks that trust and cheats on a spouse, everyone, doesn't matter if you're getting along or not getting along. It doesn't matter if you're white, black, or what. I mean, it doesn't matter. The same treatment is, if you are going to break the deepest covenant, whatever, I have the right and the responsibility to determine where this relationship is going to go from here. Everyone. See, that's where the treatment is the same. Everyone who does that, the person that's been cheated on has the right and the responsibility to determine where that relationship will go. Everyone.
Sure. Let me give you another example.
Yeah.
Just because this is fun. Okay. Say someone's got a sibling or a cousin or a close neighbor. It's like somebody who's maybe not a spouse, but still a close relationship. And they habitually make poor financial decisions. Mm-hmm. And they come to you and say, man, I'm just in a bind. Like I need $1,500 to pay off this debt, or they're going to, I don't know, take away my car, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. What does that look like?
God would treat everybody the same. That is, it doesn't matter if you're my son, my brother, or my neighbor, or a coworker,
or somebody walking down the street. It is irresponsible for me to enable you to continue to live in bad habits. That's where he treats everybody the same. If you have that behavior,
you will have this response from God. The same.
What if it was the first time it happened?
Somebody's
Never come up to you before, said, hey, I'm in a financial spot. Same exact scenario, except there's not a history of bad financial decisions. Is the treatment the same?
That's when we have to determine. That's why it's confusing. We say God treats everybody the same. Everybody in that circumstance, he treats the same. But you have to determine what circumstance are they in. Is this a person who really needs help making it? Or is this a person that is irresponsible? That's something we have to determine.
Yeah.
But whatever that determination comes to, everyone who does that is treated the same.
What you just said was super helpful. Everybody in that circumstance
Yes.
is treated the same. Because I think, as we try and I know your point you're trying to get to. But I think
You're
for a
trying to
lot of
redefine
us,
us. Yeah.
redefine. What I heard originally was treat everybody the same, but that's not what you're saying.
In the circumstance.
Everybody that behaves in a way or is in
Yeah.
a certain circumstance gets treated the same, no matter if they're friend,
That's
foe.
a great clarifying addition.
Same.
Yep.
And I think ultimately the heaven-hell judgment thing.
Would that go the same in a court system between a repeat offender and a first-time offender?
Oh, it probably should be, but our court system's screwed up. But it should.
Yeah. Well, I'm saying treatment-wise, should the mentality be,
Yes.
well, this is a person who's screwing up for the first time?
If we could love people the way God did, our court system would be much more. Everybody that commits this type of crime serves the same. They say,
You
well,
wouldn't even need a court system. You just
Yeah.
line it out like, oh, it was this,
Yeah.
and follow the line.
all,
7 years.
All first-degree
Go to
murder
Appendix
gets
C.
30 years
All
in
right.
prison. I don't care the circumstances. It's
Yeah.
everyone who commits third-degree murder spends 30 years in prison. It should be the same.
Where do you get, this might be a little bit off topic, then, but only because we were talking about it earlier. Where does people's second chance come in? So say you've got somebody, 20 years ago, repeat offender, went to prison, whatever. Like, let's just try and build a bad scenario. But they've turned their life around for the past 20 years. They've been doing great, responsible. Then something happens again.
So glad you brought that up. I hope all of us can understand, or at least gain a little bit more by this discussion. That is a great point because we all know God is a God of second chances. God, gives people another chance. He works with them again. But there's one
About
common
third chances and 17th chances.
17 chances. And God is gracious that way. But we apply that gracious second chances without one element, and God always has one element there. And that one deciding factor that differs is a repentant heart. In other words, there are people who haven't changed. There are people who aren't ashamed of their behavior.
They're not
and they just keep
getting it.
asking again.
Yeah.
They are not repentant or sorry or want different. It's just, I'm the same and you owe me, that kind of thing. God would never give somebody a second chance like that. He never has.
Yeah.
But when anybody has a repentant heart, I'm sorry for what I did. I realize I blew my money. I realize how selfish I was. Then that's where the second chance
That's
comes
an
in.
opportunity to work with people.
But when we do it without the repentant heart, we are doing more damage. There we are not loving like God does.
Yeah.
I think ultimately God has a lot more. We would look at it as God has a lot. God's love looks a lot harder than ours does, but it's not hard at all. It's just right.
Yeah.
And he doesn't differentiate from.
I think it's, you can look at it as harder in certain aspects, but also a lot more gracious in certain aspects compared to how we love too, though, right?
Yeah. I mean,
Another topic.
Another whole topic of, look what God has done for us only if we accept it.
Yeah.
Only if we accept it. An attitude's everything. An attitude of I deserve, an attitude of you owe me. Any attitude to God of you owe me.
Yeah.
No, God's not very sympathetic to
Isn't
that.
dealt with very well.
Really? You think so?
Oh boy.
So if you were going to wrap it up, kind of our overall importance that we should take away is knowing and understanding God's love for us and loving people the same by equally respecting them, valuing them, and giving them all the same treatment. However, above all, I think the most important to remember is that equal respect, value, and treatment does not mean equal outcome for every person.
If everybody's behavior was exactly the same,
Then yes,
the problem is
it's not.
it's never equal outcome because we all make choices that are bad.
Equal outcome means it's unequal.
Yes.
Somewhere else along the line.
Basically, like, because I just know some people, it's, well, love everybody the same. Well, that doesn't mean, like, I give you a loaf of bread and you a loaf of bread and you a loaf of bread and you a loaf of bread. Like, it's going to be different, a different scenario with each person. You're still displaying love, but that love looks different.
I know you're trying to wrap this up, but just it's so confusing.
But let's not.
But let's keep going.
It's, you know, we always think that equal means fair.
Yep.
Equal does not mean fair. And I know that'll boggle your mind for a while. Equal doesn't mean fair because fair has to do with outcome. Equal love, unfair lives and unfair outcomes and unfair, you know, but that doesn't determine love. You know, respect is the same
Yeah.
and value is the same. It just doesn't reveal itself in the same way because we reject it or
Yeah.
we go against it or we act terrible.
Okay. Well, there you go. Equal love doesn't necessarily mean an equal outcome in every scenario. So
That's right.
Go back and watch that message. It's going to pop up on the screen here once we're done talking. So you can just click on that and watch it and come back and join us next week
Yep.
because we're going to have more.
Yep.
So, okay, good. So
Can't wait.
Thanks for joining us. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and we will see you next week. Have a great day.